Hi, welcome to English Journey Adventures. Today's story begins with a quiet mother, a night bus, and a job no one knew about. Listen and follow. This is my mother hid her secret job. My name is Nora. I was 17 when I realized my mother, Elena, was not the woman everyone thought she was. To our neighbors, Mom was quiet and ordinary. She cooked simple dinners, wore soft cardigans, and left the apartment before sunrise with a brown work bag. People in our building called her the office cleaner. They were not cruel about it, but they said it in a way that made her sound invisible. Mrs. Bell from downstairs once asked Mom to move aside in the elevator because her cleaning bucket was touching a grocery bag. Mom apologized even though the bucket was not hers. Mom never corrected them. She only smiled, touched the strap of her bag, and said, "Work is work, Nora. We do what we must." I did not feel embarrassed by her job. At least, that is what I told myself. But when classmates asked what my mother did, I answered quickly and changed the subject. The truth was more complicated. I loved my mother, but I hated the small smile people made when they heard the word cleaner. I hated myself for noticing it. Every evening, Mom said she cleaned offices downtown. She came home late smelling like lemon soap, rain, and bus seats. Her hands were always dry from cleaning products. Sometimes there were small red marks on her fingers, and she hid them under long sleeves. Once, I asked if her boss could give her better gloves. She laughed softly and said, "My hands are stronger than they look." I did not know she meant more than cleaning. The strange part was her phone. It rang at odd hours, but she never answered in front of me. She always stepped into the hallway or the bathroom. When I asked who called, she said, "Just work." When I asked why cleaning offices needed secret phone calls, she kissed my forehead and said, "Sleep." Sometimes, after those calls, she sat at the kitchen table without turning on the light. I would find her there, holding a cold cup of tea and staring at nothing. One night, I woke up at 2 in the morning and heard the front door close. Mom was leaving again, wearing a dark coat over her work clothes. I watched from the window as she walked to the bus stop in the rain. She looked smaller than usual under the streetlight, but she also looked determined. She carried the same brown bag, but she had changed her shoes. They were not cleaning shoes. They were black flats, polished carefully at the toes. The next day at school, my friend Lena said she had seen my mother near a shelter on Maple Street. "Maybe she cleans there too," Lena said. I laughed like it did not matter, but the name of that street stayed in my mind all afternoon. Maple Street was nowhere near the office building Mom talked about. That evening, I found a badge in the laundry basket. It did not say cleaner. It said volunteer coordinator. Under the name, it said Mara. Mara was not my mother's name. I stared at the badge for a long time, feeling as if I had found a door inside our apartment. There was also a folded card in the pocket. It listed emergency numbers and words like intake, transportation, and safety plan. None of it sounded like office cleaning. When Mom came into the kitchen, I held up the badge. "Who is Mara?" I asked. The color left her face. For a moment, she looked almost afraid of me. Then she took the badge gently from my hand and said, "That is a name I use at night." I wanted a simple answer. Instead, she gave me another secret. She said, "Some people need help without knowing who I am at home." I felt angry before I understood why. "Are you ashamed of us?" I asked. Mom shook her head quickly, but she did not explain enough. She looked at the clock, then at the rain outside. I could see she wanted to tell me everything, but another part of her was trained to keep doors closed. The next Friday, I followed her. I know it was wrong, but secrets can make a child feel like a detective in her own family. Mom took the late bus across town. She did not go to the glass office tower. She got off near Maple Street and walked toward a small building with warm windows. I waited outside until the rain made my shoes wet. Through the window, I saw Mom at a desk, wearing a headset and writing in a notebook. A woman sat across from her, crying into a tissue. Mom leaned forward with the same gentle face she used when I had a fever. The room was quiet, but not empty. There were blankets folded on a chair, a kettle on a table, and a box of toys in the corner for children who arrived scared. I heard her say, "You are safe here tonight. You do not have to decide everything now." Her voice was calm, but strong. Then a teenage boy came in carrying a backpack. He looked lost and scared. Mom stood, gave him tea, and called him by name. He said, "I did not think you would remember me." Mom answered, "People are not problems to file away. Of course I remember you." No one called her Elena. Everyone called her Mara. They looked at her like she was a light in a hallway. I stepped back, but the door opened behind me. Mom saw me standing in the rain. For the first time in my life, she looked caught. Inside, she wrapped a towel around my shoulders. "Nora," she said softly, "this is not dangerous for you, but it is private for them." She explained that after Dad died, a shelter worker had helped her find work, food, and a safe apartment. Mom never forgot that kindness. Years later, she started volunteering there at night. Then she trained as a crisis support worker. She still cleaned offices in the morning, but this was her hidden job. She was paid a little for the night shifts now, but not enough to explain the tiredness. She stayed because someone had once stayed for us. "Why hide it from me?" I asked. Mom looked at the closed office door. "Because the people who come here deserve privacy. And because I did not want you to worry." I said, "Everyone thinks you only clean offices." The words sounded ugly as soon as I said them. Mom did not flinch. "There is no only," she said. "Cleaning keeps lights on. This work keeps hope on. Both matter." On Monday, a woman came to our school assembly to speak about community help. She wore a navy blazer and introduced herself as Mara. I had not known she was coming. When the principal said a special guest had helped many local families, I looked up from my notebook and froze. I almost dropped my notebook. It was Mom. She stood at the front of the auditorium, calm and professional, while students whispered around me. She did not say she was my mother. She told a story about quiet people who answer phones at night, drive strangers to safe places, and never ask for applause. Then she said, "Sometimes the person who helps you is someone you pass in a hallway every day. You may never know their name." A girl behind me whispered, "She is amazing." Another student said, "Who is she?" I kept my eyes on Mom and felt my throat tighten. After the assembly, our principal thanked Mara for years of service to families in our city. Teachers stood and clapped first. Then students followed. My friend Lena leaned toward me and whispered, "I wish my family had someone like her." I wanted to say, "You do. She rides our bus. You just never looked." Mom looked uncomfortable with the applause. She was used to being needed, not noticed. But for 1 second, her eyes found mine. I understood then that she had not hidden because she was ashamed. She had hidden because some kinds of love work better without a spotlight. That evening, I asked if I could help at the shelter one day. Mom smiled but said no, not yet. "First, learn how to protect people's stories," she said. So she taught me small things: Do not ask for details people do not offer, do not repeat names, and do not turn pain into gossip. She also taught me that helping is not the same as saving. We walk beside people, she said. We do not take over their story. I started seeing my mother differently. The brown work bag was no longer boring. It carried keys, notebooks, bus tickets, and a life I had never imagined. A week later, I visited the office building where she cleaned. I watched people walk past her without looking. This time I did not feel shame. I felt anger for their blindness. Mom noticed my face and smiled. Do not be angry, she said. Being unseen gives you a special kind of freedom. You can do good quietly. I watched her wipe fingerprints from a glass door. On the other side, a man in a suit talked about important work. He never saw the important woman beside him. On rainy nights, I still saw her leave for Maple Street. But now I knew the secret shape of her journey. She was not disappearing. She was arriving where someone needed her. Months later, the shelter held a small thank you evening. This time, Mom let me stand beside her. People came to hug her, crying and smiling. One woman said, "You answered the phone the night I had nowhere to go." A young man said, "You remembered my name when I thought nobody would." I wanted to tell everyone, "This is my mother." But I did not need to. Her life was already saying it. When we walked home, she let me carry the brown bag for the first time. It was heavier than I expected, full of notebooks, keys, and stories I was learning not to ask for. Now, when people ask what my mother does, I do not rush the answer. I say, she works hard. She helps people. And she is more than one job. Some people hide secrets because they are doing wrong. But some people hide them because they are protecting something precious. My mother taught me that a quiet life can still be brave. Not everyone who changes the world stands on a stage. Some take the night bus with a brown work bag. Thank you for watching English Journey Adventures. Listen again if you want stronger English. Read the words. Repeat the lines. And remember, quiet people can carry the strongest stories.